with 13 ABC Action News anchor Lee Conklin. First, with what's happening behind the headlines. And Take 3, our panel of political analysts.
Morning, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Conklin & Company. Today on the program, the wild week that was at the Lucas County Board of Elections. BOE leadership trotting out a 600-page report refuting many of the claims made by a Secretary of State appointed task force that in part called for the director and deputy director to be fired. That as board members spar over residency and internal romance issues. Toledo's water fix. Is it time for residents to pay the piper? That and more in Take 3 this morning. Also, Toledo's best, brightest, both adult and youth, looking to make our city, our region, a better place. Introducing you to Leadership Toledo a little bit later. But first, Cherry Street Mission Ministries looking to expand its outreach. Unfortunately, because the need doesn't seem to be lessening, expanding by making a move. And here to talk about that, timely appearance here on Conklin & Company's Dan Rogers.
Lee, great to see you again.
Good to see you, Dan, in the Cherry Street Mission. So as we sit here on Sunday morning, news coming up that you can break right now.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm happy to give you the scoop. Tomorrow morning, as a matter of fact, we'll be making final close on Maycomber and beginning now to move forward with some pretty careful master planning.
This has been a little while in the works here. I know that we talked about this. We had this story that came to light back in February. But how long, Dan, has this move been in the making behind the scenes?
This specific move to Maycomber is now in its 8th month. Wow. Where we've gone through very careful due diligence. You can imagine, Lee, a building that's more than 70 years old has challenges. And
just a few.
Well, just a few, and the square footage alone is 220,000 square feet. So a lot of things to think about in relationship to how can we take 12 existing facilities and functions of Cherry Street and see them all living under one roof in time.
Right, and I think most of us think of the mission itself. It's 17th and Monroe. There's the Sparrow's Nest, also the Oaks.
Yeah, the Oaks, 2 of our women's facilities. Yeah. There's 2 homes in Oregon for the elderly. There are 3 facilities that we operate for families. There are education centers and medical clinics and more than 1 food site. So just spread out over 9 communities, really. And of course, really difficult to get things done on a daily basis. Matter of fact, to that point, if you don't mind me saying, one of the driving factors behind consolidating under one roof is that presently, in the way that we are decentralized, 40% of our day of our guests are spent waiting. So they're either waiting to find a meal or to walk 5 blocks to get a meal or waiting to go to class, waiting to get a pair of pants, 40% of the day. So imagine the barriers that they face every single day just through Cherry Street Mission Ministries.
And the barriers your staff faces.
Well, there's no question about it.
Going from place to place.
Communications, transportation, multiple utility costs. I mean, just the cost of overhead to operate in these many communities is really burdensome. So when you think about the next 70, 80 years as Cherry Street's leadership is thinking, we're thinking, how can we consolidate, lower our overhead costs, put more time back into the lives of people who need time, and really present what we would refer to as better redemptive potential for people who need it the most.
Okay, you talked about the age of the building, though, Dan, and we always hear that sometimes it's cheaper to build than renovate. Yeah. What about the push-pull here that you face?
Yeah, no question. There's definitely the necessary friction in this project. You know, the fact of the matter is, if I had an idea to build a building, Lee, that would house 100% of Cherry Street Mission Ministries, it in fact would be more costly than rebuilding this this present structure. So
when you're talking about square footage, I mean, how large is the old Maycomber High School?
220,000 square feet.
Okay.
Right now, Cherry Street is occupying cumulatively about 110, 115,000 square feet.
All of your locations?
All of our locations combined. So, but what this project does for us, Lee, is not only in terms of life of project, will it lower our costs because of the overhead that needs to be factored in, that will be consolidated, but it also returns some pretty vital assets that are inaccessible to the community, namely full-size gym, not right now accessible to inner city, Central City, and an 800-seat auditorium that, frankly, people in the uptown areas like Toledo School for the Arts and other services that assemble have to leave our neighborhood just to do.
Right.
So this puts really vital assets back into community.
And of course, it was the old Macomber Whitney.
It was, in
building,
fact.
right. So,
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about that history is that during World War II, the community called upon Macomber to be in 24-hour service because the school program received airplane engines during World War II to refurbish. So at one point during the height of World War II, Macomber was operating 24 hours a day. Now, the interesting parallel there, Lee, is I believe the community once again is calling upon Macomber to return to 24-hour active duty because Cherry Street operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Interesting you put it that way. Back in service, right?
Yeah, I would
back
say,
in
and I
service?
think it's for us, it's a great way to frame the case and to frame our conversation.
All right, so funding. How are you going to pay for all this, Dan?
Well, there you go. I was hoping Lee Conklin would put a few zeros on a check for me today. No, I mean, we will go to the community as we have for the last 66
outreach,
years.
correct?
Yeah, there's no question about it. You know, we will provide for the community a project of phases. We will look at this from a phase process, raise money, and build as we go. But one of the things the community can depend on us to do, as it always has, is to do this with the community and by the community and for the community. There's no question about it.
All right.
Yeah.
And maybe when you get that gym done, Jim Jackson can come
Well,
back and
he's
christen it
definitely
for
on
you.
my short list to call because he was one of the last players on the
Yes.
floor. And so
Yes.
to even have Jim come back and christen, you know, the opening, or you know, to even lend his name to the project would be ideal.
Yeah,
of
a
course.
state champion.
Of course.
from
I mean,
Macomber
and a
Park Building
tremendous,
Company.
tremendous human being
Yeah.
to boot.
All right, so you have what an exciting time
Yeah.
for you and your folks. Crazy time, it's got to be.
It is.
But things happen tomorrow. You hope to close tomorrow.
Yeah, we will.
You know, you will.
Yeah.
Okay. There's always those, you know.
Oh, yeah. Let's
you
say
know,
with reasonable
gnashing of
assurity,
the
we will
teeth.
close tomorrow. Yeah.
So you close, and then the timetable becomes what? Moving forward.
Yeah, definitely the very first order of business is to develop this master planning team that really look at the overall project and begin to put in order a metric of urgent and how that urgent gets meted out in a phased process. So some of the urgencies about that building, Lee, that don't need much discussion is the roof needs to be completely replaced. And from there, you just begin bringing other stability into the building, heating, cooling. Certain areas of the building, because of residency, will have to be sprinkled. And then you can really begin building out in phases. So first order of business is acquire the facility. Second order of business is really think about the project end, and then re-engineer what the first phase is and get to work.
Fun. It's like
Yeah,
you're building
well,
a house.
Well, you know,
But a
the
big
thing-
house.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
here you have, you know, Cherry Street Mission Ministries, as you well know. You know, I'm happy to serve a community that is one of our region's finest traditions, Cherry Street, who grew up at the same amount of time of an iconic structure, Macomber. So it's just a great idea to put two together, present it to the community, and say, hey, if we all roll up our sleeves, we can do this together.
All right.
Yeah.
Exciting. Best of luck tomorrow.
Thanks, Lee.
Everything goes off without a hitch. And
Appreciate
moving
it.
forward, Cherry Street Mission Ministries moving into the old Macomber High School.
Yeah, look forward to keeping you abreast of the progress.
All right. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks,
as
Lee.
always. Come back in just a minute. Talk to some folks from Leadership Toledo right after this.